I've also noticed, I mean, it's not new, but there are often attacks on friendships, especially when these friendships are a threat to the more negative timelines here. So you can find people who are trying to bring you in toxic triangulation, who are trying to insert or suggest things about people you know, to make it appear in other ways, and then it also use your shadow and your egos in the hope the operation will succeed, coming in and trying to insert weird things. Also, other exterior handlers were trying to, suggest things and things like that. So these are subjection, and you will find there is like a subtext, and it's in the impression and intuition, and you can read it. And the more you explore your own MK Ultra programming, the more you can find how deep it goes and how far you can take it as well, in some ways as well, if you want to resist or not play the game how it's proposed. You're gonna have plenty of space to explore your own programming sometimes, and much further than a lot of reels who are not really, they have not, if you turn in circle in loops for years, you don't really deep enough to realize what is really there inside yourself and has been programmed as well. And as we mentioned before, it's challenging to build true community here at the level we are at, knowing about mind control and knowing also about our own programming. Having learned to also process triggers and work on our shadow. And the reason why it's so difficult is also because there is so much mind control and false realities. And most people are definitely not conscious on how they are being used. And not many are sincerely willing to become conscious either. Each reel is really in their own bubble of engineering, and it's about how much we are working on extracting from it or keeping it at bay and pushing the walls of the prison further and further away. But it's been interesting, different chapter of my life where, all of a sudden it feels like the prison is right back really around me, where other times I feel much freer in my movement. It's really a state of being. And I do believe, and I've experienced, that aligned community offers protection, the right guidance, support, celestial support. We can say the right thing for each other without sometimes even knowing it, and bringing new pieces of information, bringing healing, and just having this positive kind of type of relationship, especially in contrast with the negative attention, is really, something important as the basic, as a big base of our life here. The matrix is also designed to prevent us as much as possible to be reunited together in person in each other proximity, because this brings more memory in the physicality of the experience too. So different experiences about sharing space. I think it has to be with beings who know at least a little bit who you are as a being, beings who are resisting some of the false realities. For example, I have a friend, and she just share about false realities as the truth, and when she does that, it's like her unconscious is just colliding with my whole field. I couldn't imagine to build something more serious with her, and the lifetime aura with her has revealed that there is not much substance. Though if for you who have the app, the ringed aura was pretty good, so my experience of it on different level can have healing aspect, but the overall aura, there was not so much to it. I know there are fears and programming that needs to be slowly dismantled about what's possible also to experience with other people. It's already a community. If you have animals, it's a kind of small type of family. Animals who are real also. What would it feel like to live in community or to experiment, for example, a gathering, for example, which is like a community experiment in a little time bubble, right? Which is I feel it's a good way to call in and try and do trial and error, definitely, with to double check also how far we can go together and how much unconscious can erupt. It's always interesting. So I always found as well some parasitic beings being there in different communities I've been part of, or some narcissistic profiles that like to play drama or like to spread false stories or play different games, or sometimes it's a sex kitten person and bringing that sexual energy also, or things that are not, like, yeah, things get corrupted. And it's always interesting to see also people who really cannot join or who are bugging sometimes. For me, the last 2 years, I understood much more why people cannot join because of the MK Ultra programs and how far they are, and how well they can deal with their programming. And it's always interesting to see what can be actualized. And I really like to, for me, it's really important to focus that time and energy with beings who can meet you in who you are and who you want to grow with. And so much is done, so you focus on in other directions than that. There is this savior thing that give you a high, which I experiment a little bit today. So there is a line like it also gives you a little bit of energy where you can get up off your chair because you can be helpful. It also ties to your sense of identity and your recognition aspect. But I think there are some times where it's also intuition. I mean, doing the right thing at the right time. But the border, you have to observe the border so it doesn't shift in energy. And it can shift in energy even subtly to some aspect, even in different relationship. If one of your friends is drifting a little bit into that, started to ramble a little bit or drift away in rambling in victimhood, for example, and then it's going to trigger, oh, I can be the savior, but then it's a toxic dynamic and we're playing on toxic aspect. The important is not to stay there, to move away and to notice what's happening. But if you really observe the body, you're going to feel the difference, because when it's aligned, you don't get really a high, but it gives you energy, but it's not the same kind of, it's different a little bit, it expresses a little bit differently. So I mean, I think both can happen, and I've definitely been really derailed by the savior victim game also, much less now, but maybe sometimes even to the extreme other side, where you can, all these attempts can also be discouraging, where you don't try anymore, or but it's true that every one of us need to calibrate where we invest our energy, because there is already so much energy that is being drained, and it's a reality that there is that much energy left, and so where are we focusing it, right? And to make grow something, sometimes, yes, if people are not trying, then better spend that time and energy on make your own project grow. I mean, there's something I've been reflecting on the last few months, even more. It's the resistance to healing that I've been confronted with most of my life. And I mean, now it makes more sense, when you know about MK Ultra and how it imprints the mind, and how much there is negative programming with that. It explains a lot why most people are not open to real healing that is right in front of them. It's like you're blind to it, you're resistant to it, it's programmed within you. So only a little portion of being are able to actually move through these heavy layers and accept at least the next layers of healing. And where true friendship, it's programmed to feel boring or to feel like, no, it's not that, it cannot be that, it's too simple, or you have programmed resistance towards the energy of some beings sometimes. So which if you trace it, then you can really pay attention to is it true or is it programmed. And the last 2-3 years I made great progress about that I trust in what I've seen, felt, sense in the minds of others. I've seen it, I've seen the behaviors, so it helps to give me context about why. Because probably 4 years ago I was trusting less in that, so it was way more hurtful for me and making me doubt and attack me so harshly in my sense of identity and in the root also of my intent, which I work to keep clean enough, right? It's always a work in process, but because of the level of awareness we have, and there are levels with other people, and it often separates us. It's often a lonely rise where you have aspect where you are being, maybe it's not deceived in English, it's like disappointed, to lose also, people who are not able to follow your eyes, the difficulty to share, to find beings who can share really the deepest aspects, right? And then we can talk about it together when there are weird unconscious things erupting, and that's when I have a real thing, right? There are beings I know I'm not going to be able to really talk about it deeply because there are too many false realities, and that would it be insulting for them. I mean, they have no idea. So much work needs to be done. So it's alive in us, and the negativity is there, so we don't connect and think about it enough, right? That's why vision board work to some extent, because but you end up getting used to your vision board. But if only each day there was more proactive work, but I do forget it's getting wiped. And I think that's the power, is first to discuss and manifest it from the intention, and then we get there much faster. It's much effortless also when we have the energy to move mountain, like today I felt that the time slowed down. When you have a lot of programming going on, time can get, it go really quickly. But sometimes when you're more a master of your time, it slows down and you feel you can get more things done, and you have the energy also to do the steps to get yourself there. And I don't think there are many communities working on that level, not that I'm aware of, and I've been looking for them, and I understood that it would have been it would have to be created and protected, and from the core self. Also to relearn, by steps, also to try things and that they go well, and to settle in that frequency. I think it's also the journey to experience that other people can also not be too suffocating and things like that, and that we can have our space and boundaries. Just also doing little steps also to, so it doesn't create too much anxiety and things like that. I definitely have done that the last decade, because it used to be really challenging for me to have people over, for example, because these were not the right people, and it was creating anxiety. But with the right people, if you can have your own space, and they also need their own space, so that is really nice. It's really also about the right energies that surround us, for sure. Only one element that is disruptive also, and it might not be disruptive for everybody, disruptive, but if it is destabilizing the energy in some ways, it has a huge effect, and they came with their own journey, and sometimes they came with their own programming. So what they could bring is were the unicity, but also sometimes, they were sex kitten aspect, they were like avoidant aspect of doing the work. They were aspects that didn't understand at all targeting and made fun of it, like if it was something funny, which at the time was not funny for me, who just been targeted in the woods. Or there were these false realities, which if they can stand in the middle of us, when someone share about false spirituality, but I also give up going further. So there is a grieving aspects with these beings, and they don't really fit in, unfortunately, though they do bring certainly their own new energies and aspects, but they also do slow us down and sabotage. There were triggers also that affected my mood. It did impact, because then I had not enough patience. So you see how it's really a subtle dance to find the right energies. I think there is a need for a deep sensitivity, and also a deep work and a deep discernment, so we can, because you do definitely need discernment. Imagine in a community, then handlers are visiting, or it does impact us, and the less they are allowed in, the better for everyone. And it's really important to be able to talk about the real aspects, right? And to process the unconscious as it's erupting, because it's very surprising. And it doesn't need to be abrupt. Every time at the gathering, I also had, when I was alone with myself, connected to that frequency, I suddenly could tell that the threats of engineering that were trying to settle in my mind, I could tell by the frequency and the difference in frequency with what I was experiencing, that it was not the truth. So I could at that instant make that decision not to go for that trap that would have cost me a month of energy, right? So, just being in that presence of energy of truth and connected to higher aspect, you can definitely feedback with yourself. And trace back in your own consciousness, because it's really interesting how it tries to settle in and fool you and deceive you, and too many different aspects. Animals do offer like support. I feel if you find the right animals, this is already a sense of family life that is less, you can adopt them. you don't have to burst them. They don't go to school like children, so it's less entanglement with the matrix than other family models. So I feel for me this has helped me to ground, and it helped me to ground emotionally every day. It has helped with isolation and being targeted. In my work, when I was working for different magazines, it was always networking me to traps and setups that I realized later were traps and setups. Maybe I met one real person during my whole time. And even now, I revisited a page because LinkedIn sent me a message, and I revisited someone I've been in relationship with for one of my work, and I found so much MK Ultra triggers in her art. And I remember she's been used to. I was feeling really guilty for something, and at the time I wasn't opening my eyes. So yes, there are a lot of operation with the, and they try to push, definitely bosses or colleagues are trying to push things sometimes, and they're not fully aware and conscious why. We can really meet each other without all these fences that we have that are real, that are all protection mechanism also sometimes, so we place them unconsciously. That's also the richness of community, is that basically, you know how you can have tunnel visions on something, and then somebody brings these new energies, and it opens a new door for you, and you're like, oh yes, I can. And it really opens your mind. And I mean, that's the real principle of community, and bringing new energies, bringing healing, bringing support, working through, and being already two together for a project is already so different from being alone. And same for gardening, preparing how to grow food. Like alone, it asks, I mean, I can do it and I've been doing it, but I sometimes need to put myself in some areas of my consciousness to be on time and to get moving with that stagnant energy. And it's already better than doing it with a handler, and but it's different story when we are doing it together. I do believe that, and I felt it, how much easier it is also to deal with the heavier aspects that we all have to deal with. I mean, some aspects then can be heavy on your own, and you need to go in your gut energy to do it, like, for like recycling things, and I mean a lot of 3D things that we need to be doing that are feel maybe more ungrateful when we are doing them alone. So for the ones of you who want, you can set that intention with me. If you want everything that is ready to release to be revealed in plain sight, and awareness in your corners of reality, in order to assist each of us towards bringing more happiness, fulfillment, meaningful relationships with other ET beings in whichever forms they are, and to show us gently what is in the way for us to go to the next step of creating community in our lives, and what it means to us, and to the rhythm that is the right one for us at this stage of our life. And also to be reminded about why it's important, because so much is done, so we don't even remember, and we are being dragged in these false realities where we forget, and we forget how it can be, and it's meant to make us forget. That's how it's designed also.